Well, thank you so much for joining to everyone in these wild, interesting times. Regarding time, let's dive right in and get started. My name is Marta Turk. I am from Bevicon, the project partner from Germany. And this is the webinar on the topic business management, which takes place in the frame of the project Women in Business. Before I give the floor to Marta Turk for her presentation, I'll give a short explanation how the webinar will run today. So every participant here, you're going to be muted. And if anyone has something you'd like to say, you can either use the function raise your hand so that I can unmute you. But I would also recommend if you could please write if you have a question at any point into the chat function. And then we can go to the at the question and answer time. Then I'll read the questions, and then Marta will answer them. So if you could just please write down your questions, and then we'll look at those at the end of the presentation. The webinar will be recorded and uploaded afterwards on our YouTube channel, and the link will be available on our Women of Business platform. So let's hand the floor over to Marta for her presentation, and I'm really looking forward to her input and your questions afterwards. Thank you very much. Marta, if you'd like to.
Yeah. Thank you, Lara. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for these explanations of how it will work. It's for me also the first time to work on the Zoom platform.
Marta, yes. Are you using a microphone?
Yes. No, well, microphone within the computer.
Yeah, because earlier when you were talking, now it's working again. But earlier when you were talking, it was kind of hard to hear. Can you?
Really?
Are you doing something else now?
No, I'm just sitting in front of computer and talking.
Okay, so maybe I won't mute myself. I'll keep myself unmuted. Can you start again? I'm not sure if it was okay for the others, but for me it was all choppy. So let's just start again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lara. I hope that everybody heard me before. I will not do the same introduction. I'm very happy to be with you and to speak today about business management. The topic of business management is maybe not so very important at the beginning when you start your company, but of course it's very important later on when we decide that our company will grow. So let me introduce myself. I am an entrepreneur since 1989. It means that I'm already a legend. That means that I'm already very old, for those of you who don't know me. I am an entrepreneurial pioneer since Slovenia, and for that reason I was included or involved very much also in work of bodies who are representing SMEs, and we were lobbying very much for, let's say, changing of the legislation to be more in favor for micro companies and medium-sized companies, which at the beginning, let's say 30 years ago, was not so very easy and logical. I am an SME expert. I hold a degree in economics, and I have published several researches on small and medium-sized companies. Especially, I dedicate my whole activity also to the economic potential of women, and I organize many networks of women. I organize also a largest conference of women entrepreneurs in Slovenia, which is called 500 Women Entrepreneurs, business women in Slovenia, but it's already an international event. In year 2019, I initiated the campaign for promotion of business angels for women businesses in Slovenia, and we started with first international meeting on the subject. We hope that this year, maybe, we don't know when, because we had to postpone the date of event, will happen again, and will make some changes and some support for women in businesses in Slovenia. So what is business management? It's a managing of the coordination and organization of business activities, which include production of materials, money and machines and services. And of course, it's very important, managing employees, and also involves innovation and marketing, and don't forget financing. Management is in charge of planning, of organizing, directing, and also controlling the business resources. They can meet the objectives of the policy. So the policy or the vision and the mission and the strategy is very important in the business. Some people think that the best way to evaluate a company's future is current words depends on the experience and quality of the managers. We also believe that's true, but how is manager connected to an entrepreneur or to a leader? So the goal of a management is to get people together to achieve the goals and the same desired objectives by using the resources that are available in an effective and efficient way. So resources is the second most important asset within the company. So here is a sketch of business management, which shows the involvement of all these important parts of the business management. It means the vision and mission, which has to be stated at the beginning, but has to be adapted also to the strategy, the organization, the management of that organization, who, with whom and how will be cooperating, how it will be managed and delegated to other parts of the company, and so on. It's also important that the business manager all the time thinks about the growth and development and expanding of the company. And of course, that includes also the marketing and sales, also the innovation and ideas which are included in the companies and coming out from people who are working in different departments of the company and so on. So it's important how we manage ideas. And of course, it's important how we manage the production or the production of services, because many times we have to manage our service production, not just the production as industry. And all that, it depends on our way how we manage human resources, how we manage people who are included and involved in our company. So management functions include the following: the organizing, directing or leading, planning, staffing, controlling, and organization. They also encompass the manipulation and development of financial resources, natural resources, human resources, and technological resources. Management is necessary to facilitate and to unite its effort towards achieving the company's goals. So goals, vision statement, and mission statement, and the strategy are all very important mixture of that which defines our future success of the company or not success. All that is also connected to how a person who is defined to be a manager manages, what kind of styles uses. So a manager can be very democratic or very autocratic or very paternalistic and laissez-faire. Democratic management style is used when employees are able to give feedback or input on business decisions. The autocratic management lets the business owner be the person in charge of making all decisions and leading the company through the business environment. When the best work environment possible is created for each employee, it's known as paternalistic management. Laissez-faire has the most employee autonomy and lets decisions be made with little to no business owner oversight. Traditional management is a hierarchy of employees with low, mid, and senior level management. The manager creates expectations for the goals employees need to make. So I'm sure if you have some let's say, working experiences, you have met all these different kinds of managers who were dealing and delegating tasks which had to be done in companies where you worked in, from democratic to autocratic and to paternalistic too. What is the difference from leadership to the management? Is there any difference at all? Many people quickly assume that being a good leader means you're also a good manager and vice versa, which is not very true, not always. The two concepts are actually quite distinct, and understanding that distinction can help you understand what it means to be a good, either or good at both, good leader or good manager. So what are the key characteristics of a management or of a leadership? First, when we speak of a manager, he usually uses tactics which are focused on aspects of the organization's strategy, while the leader has a very strategic approach, strategic focus on the organization's needs. The executing on specific areas within the responsibility of a manager is the most important leading action, while the leader is establishing goals and the strategic directions. The manager formulates and enforces the policies of a business to achieve its goals. So their goals are already set and he is enforcing them, while the leader establishes principles. The manager directs and monitors the team to achieve their specific goals. He is always trying to control the situation, while the leader is empowering and mentoring the team to lead them to their goals. So it's not controlling so much, but supporting, empowering, and mentoring, giving possibilities to open new doors, new possibilities, new ways to achieve the goals. The manager is including the question of risk-taking within the organization, while the leader is risk engagement and overall identification is using as success, the way to the success. The short-term focus with attention to the details is a characteristic of the manager, while the leader has a vision which is a long-term vision with high-level focus. So we see that being a good manager, not necessarily we are also good leaders, but when we are capable to achieve all the necessary characteristics, of course, our company will not stay micro, but will develop to a global organization. So that is probably some of the goals of some of good future entrepreneurs among you, I hope. So which are 12 leadership competencies which are applied to entrepreneurship too? Because don't forget, and I don't forget, that in the audience probably there are some good and very successful future entrepreneurs among you. So the competencies of the leader is very important, how you supervise others, how you supervise your team. Also, it's very important for yourself to develop the way how to resolve the conflicts between the team members. For that reason, the emotional intelligence is very, very important. So if you feel that you need some more education about that, it's very good that you go to such seminars. And I think that the emotional intelligence is one of the next seminars with our project too. It's very important to know how to communicate our messages to our teams or to outside public and so on. So we have to learn about communication skill a lot too. To manage the performance and to be able to make good interviews, it's also one of the, let's say, soft skills which we have to learn in the future, being good and successful managerial entrepreneurs. The team building and the capability to establish a good cooperative team building is one of very, I would say, more art than skill, because you have to have good feeling for people, understand their logics, be able to support and motivate them, and to use as much as possible their skills in favor of the success of your company. And many times, especially in small companies which are started from the micro, we have the problem that usually the entrepreneur has a problem to delegate tasks, to delegate activities to other people in the team, because usually he counts on himself or herself much too much instead of delegating tasks to other people. But what about you? What about your micro business which you are planning to start in, let's say, near future or next year? How are you going to manage your own company? So first, let us say again what is the definition and criteria for the micro company, because probably you are starting your business as, let's say, a self-employed person, or to start as a limited company, defining to have the micro company. So a micro company in which the average number of employees in a financial year does not exceed 10 employees, and the net sales revenue does not exceed 700,000 euro, and the asset value does not exceed 350,000 euro, that's a micro company. Maybe that definition varies from country to country, but usually it's on the same level, speaking of the countries within EU community. Why it's important to understand that? Because of the criteria through which the country is supporting the development of micro companies. So the understanding of micro company and the difference between micro and small company, speaking from the criteria, that defines also how much the country and the country policy is in favor of entrepreneurship development, startup companies, and so on. So you, when you start your company, you will be at the beginning alone on the board. And that means that it will not be a very easy activity, because you will have to do a lot of things on your own. But let us see what are some of the most common micro businesses in EU. They include catering, childcare, photography, computer services, house cleaning, event planning, accounting, and cosmetology. That are the most activities which are usually registered through women in business. Yet, regardless of the industry, all micro businesses require many of the same skills to thrive as their larger business counterparts. So it means that whatever you start, not depending on your, are you small or big company, that means that you have to have the same skills, but also mostly the same good conditions to start. So a micro business starts with personal initiative, which is very important, with your passion and your wish and willing and your dreams, and with your commitment as any business of a larger size. So that very initiative and your commitment leads many micro businesses to grow into bigger entities that comprise the small business market. So this is how it looks. Business management in a micro company. You are starting at home during your work and engagement with your family, with your child, with books, with cleaning the house, with cooking, and so on. You are capable to manage also all activities, speaking of developing your micro company. So you have multifunction role in micro businesses in one person. First, you have to be a very good manager. You manage yourself, and of course you manage your company. Secondly, you have to be a very good entrepreneur, because there's a big difference between a manager and entrepreneur. And that difference means especially the entrepreneur has the idea, is very innovative, is very, he uses very much his assets and his resources in favor of developing the company. But that same person has to be a marketing manager too, and has to organize finances to establish a good and stable business. Also, a person starting a startup company has to be a good communicator and has to be able to promote the business. The management of production and services, because you do all that, but at the end you have to produce or you have to deliver your services. That means that you have to produce or to deliver your services on your own. And of course, you have to be a business secretary to your own business company. It seems a lot of tasks, and of course, at the beginning, all these tasks are on your. Why it's important to understand how these different roles are mixed in one person starting the small micro company at the beginning. Because within a year or year and a half of activity of small company, a person will start to think about employing another person to help. Whom are you going to employ or involve in your company? That depends on these different roles which you have to do in order to grow your company. So if you would like to have somebody who will take over activities which are not bringing more money in your company, it's probably you will think about somebody like a business secretary. But if you need more support in, let's say, marketing, you will probably think about somebody to employ within marketing and sales. So for that reason, is important that we understand all these different roles which are included in micro company business management. So what is important for you if you will think about starting your company? First, you will be thinking as an entrepreneur. What inspires you? Do you have what it takes to start? What are your chances for success? Define your business concept. Follow your passion. Define your strategy, mission, and vision. And of course, finding your niche on the market. And are you committed to growth? All these topics which are defined for a future entrepreneur, you have to develop in yourself. You have maybe to write down what is your passion. And on your passion, on that definition, you will probably develop your business. But also, if you are committed to growth, that means that you are thinking at the beginning also on people to be involved in your company in the same time. So first employees, whom do you need? What will that person work within the company? Who would you like to have on board, and so on. So if you are committed to growth, how are you going to make money on the market? Do you prepare annual plan for your success? What about marketing and sales? How to involve media and deliver your message to public? Who is in your team? Maybe you have more people who are your friends and supporting you and helping you in developing your company and are not employed in your company. Do you work with your family? Did you put down some rules about working with friends and family? Because that's very important. At the beginning, everybody is friends. But when a company grows, it means that also we have to have defined rules of cooperation and also expenses which are coming out of that cooperation. So also the rules regarding hiring your first employee. Whom do you like to have on board? What characteristic do you expect? What would that person work for you? what kind of knowledge you expect from that person, and so on. Do you need somebody who would be able to help you with developing new relations or new market? With that person have to speak other languages, and so on. And not at the end, it's very important to learn how to be a boss, and that is already the micro company business management. So this is part of my presentation, speaking of business management in micro company, but let's speak a little bit of learning to be a boss. So what is important to learn, to understand what kind of the boss you are? You have to envision yourself as a person who is delegating your tasks to somebody else. And also you have to learn how that person will react to your tasks which you are going to give to that person. So the discussion, are you going to be, as we described before, if you remember, what kind of leader you are? Are you autocratic? Are you democratic? Are you paternalistic leader, and so on? Usually they say that women as leaders and managers are much more paternalistic, so they leave much more the decisions to be made or to be given through people who are involved in company, and also they expect from the members of the team that they would consider a company as an entrepreneur. So it's as your child, you know, you are developing your child who is growing, who is learning, who is being better and better, and that is expected also from the members of the team. Or in a different situation, you would like people to listen to you, what you say, and deliver what they are expected to deliver. So that's, I would say, for the beginning, the most of these topics, business management, and I hope that there are some questions too.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I did see one question come up here. And ladies and gentlemen, if there's any additional questions, please remember to write in the group chat. So one question from Irina Kircheva. And her question is, do you recommend to work with friends and people that you know at the beginning, or is it better to hire experts?
Well, it depends on what topics, but I would say, especially among younger people, the cooperation on the basis of friendship is working good. But as I say, it's very important that if they really involve in your startup company, that you would define some 5 or 10 rules of cooperation in order to have them all the time on the board, because the worst thing which can happen is that you have somebody who cooperates with you for, let's say, 5-6 months, but then suddenly that person decides that he or she will stop. So you have to organize some rules, some, let's say, regulations of how you will cooperate and how you're going to pay the services maybe later when the money will come in the company, because everybody understands that at the beginning there's no money. It's a lot of wish and activities and work, but at the beginning there's no money, or usually very little money.
Okay, thank you. Is there another question? I'm wondering, how did you develop your own leadership style? Did you have some leaders that inspired you, or specific role models, or learning by doing? What was your...
Well, it was a combination of all that, because let's say 30 and some years ago, I had a mentor who was visiting my company, let's say once a week. He was a legal advisor, and at that time, there were very few private small companies as mine. and he was very curious to understand how it works. But with his knowledge on the legal side of the things, he gave me a lot of understanding of, let's say, some rules, how a contract had to be put on, how a negotiation with customers should be put down, and so on. So that was one of my mentors at the beginning. But on the other side, when you enter in a discussion, when you go to make some, let's say, business conversation in order to get new order, you have to learn by doing, of course. You don't have a lot of experience. I would say that I'm not in a favor that a person enters in a company without any previous experience as an employer in a company. Especially, I think it's very precious experience if you work a year or 2 years in a bigger company, because a bigger company has a structure and organization, and you can learn a lot out of that. If you start to work with the micro company, that company also learns by doing and cannot give you so much knowledge of organization and business management of a company, which you should put maybe in the future, if you understand me well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Another question that just came in. Do you notice any specific strengths that women have as leaders or managers respectively, and what women lack the most in these roles?
Well, I would say that there's a lot of difference, because I know also many women in Slovenia who are very good managers in bigger companies or corporations, and their attitude is much similar to, let's say, male attitude in leading, which means is not so very democratic, let's say, combination of democratic and autocratic. But if we speak of women in SMEs, small and medium-sized businesses, if we speak of women who started their own businesses and developed within 10 or 12 years in a bigger company, let's say bigger company with 20, 25 employees and more, then I would say that they are more in favor of more flat organization, not so very hierarchic organization. And they are much more willing to listen to new ideas and propositions and so on, is comparing to let's say male-leaded companies. Maybe because of this female attitude which we have, we always have to listen to others and then to make our own decision on the comparing of the ideas of others.
Okay, thank you. Let's give everyone maybe another minute or so to see if there's another question. And while I let everyone think for a moment, I wanted to ask, do you have a leadership book that you would recommend that you've recently read or that's helped inspire you?
Well, concretely, not at this time, but maybe there are many books on, let's say, Watson, who started the IBM company, and if you learn how he started and how many times he failed and so on. Or maybe, I don't know, the Dan Senior and Saul Singer, the Startup Nation, which is also a very interesting book about how to develop the supporting environment for innovative companies. Then the Leading Social Entrepreneurs is also one of the books, because women are more included in, let's say, social entrepreneurship, which was written by the organization ASHOKA. Or maybe, I don't know if you have saw just a moment, the book of Harvard Business Review on women in business, which is also very interesting because it shows a lot of different types of leading companies led by women. Those are seven, but we have a lot of literature on this remark. But I would say for somebody who starts as a micro company, it's important to adapt all these rules, because if you are always looking just very, very higher, you will be always afraid that you are not be able to achieve those goals of a bigger company, but you start as a small. And as we saw with this situation in which we are now today because of this coronavirus, how very, very subtle, how very fragile is a small company if something like this happens. So in a way, the risk-taking of starting a micro company and surviving in such a situation is much, much higher than of a company who has an established market, established production, and also, let's say, more people who are employed and involved in that. So this is, we are in a very new situation, and we even don't know what will happen with all these coronavirus reactions to things in countries. And for that reason, I would say if you are starting your small company, think big, but also take very cautious steps forward.
Thank you. All right, so I didn't see any more questions come in. So I think, unless there's anything else.
Well, I hope that I gave some good information to future entrepreneurs, and with the presentation comparing with difference between bigger and smaller, that it will help them to be more secure of their work.
Great, yes, I thought it was very interesting. And I look forward to, well, like I said, this is going to also be uploaded on YouTube. So if there's something you want to look back on again for your participants, if something you want to review, then that will be up there. Okay. And so thank you very, very much for that interesting presentation, and for all the participants for listening. The next webinar will be held by Ivana on March 19th. Oh, that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sorry, stepping in for my friend. March 19th at 2 p.m. with the topic of the secrets of successful sales. So it looks like everyone will be back at the webinar. If possible, if you'd like to join tomorrow. And I hope everyone has a good day, takes care of each other, and find a way to get through this crisis together. Yeah, thank you so much, especially to Marta. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.